The transport ship was scheduled to arrive at 8 in the morning on the second day. Taeyang had spent every remaining moment with the young creatures, writing down their care requirements, behavioral patterns, and the communication methods he had developed. He recorded videos showing how they responded to different situations, what stressed them, what calmed them. If they had to go, he would give their next caretakers every possible advantage. Dr. Morales had been quietly working behind the scenes, trying to find facilities that might treat the young creatures with respect rather than as mere specimens. Choi Mireille had sent her research findings to 3 major xenobiological journals at the same time, hoping public interest might create pressure for better treatment. Even Guard Captain Hrulvok had written a formal commendation for the young creature's role in saving Daehyun, though everyone knew it would carry little weight against the syndicate's recommendation. Ambassador Krelvax had remained on the station, observing from a distance. His presence was a constant reminder of the deadline approaching. He had not changed his position, despite multiple attempts by station personnel to show the young creature's cooperative behavior. The last evening arrived too quickly. Taeyang sat in his quarters with Buell, Hanul, and Dari gathered around him. They seemed to sense that something important was happening. Their behavior was quieter than usual. Buell kept his head resting on Taeyang's lap, while Hanul and Dari lay pressed against his sides. "I wish I could make you understand," Taeyang said quietly. "You are going somewhere new tomorrow. Different place, different people. But you will be together. That is important. You will have each other." Buell made a low sound, something between a whine and that dolphin-like vocalization they used for complex communication. The sound carried such clear emotion that Taeyang felt his throat tighten. "I know. I feel the same way." At 11 at night, Taeyang finally fell into an uneasy sleep. The 3 young creatures arranged themselves around his sleeping area, as they had done every night for weeks. He had become so used to their presence that he was not sure how he would sleep once they were gone. At 1:47 in the morning, the station's emergency alarms shattered the silence. Taeyang jerked awake, confused by the flashing red lights and the urgent wail of the proximity alert system. The young creatures were on their feet instantly, spikes raised, forming a protective triangle around him. Their reaction speed was impressive, going from sleep to full alertness in seconds. "All personnel, this is not a drill." Commander Vextal's voice came through the communication system. "We have experienced a hull breach in Section 12. Emergency doors are engaging. All personnel evacuate to designated safe zones immediately." Taeyang grabbed his emergency suit, pulling it on quickly while looking at the station's status displays on his wall screen. The breach was big, caused by what appeared to be an asteroid fragment that had somehow slipped through the station's defensive grid. The damage was severe, and worse, the impact had caused failures in several systems, including the biological containment vault. His blood went cold as he read the automated alerts. The vault was a high-security storage area where the station kept specimens too dangerous for regular labs. Frozen samples, suspended organisms, things that required maximum security. The breach had disrupted the vault's power systems. Containment fields were failing. Emergency protocols were automatically releasing certain specimens to prevent death from system failures. It was a nightmare scenario, trading immediate threat for long-term preservation of valuable research. Multiple hostile organisms loose in sections 11 through 15. Hrulvok's voice cut through the chaos. "All security teams respond. All civilians remain in locked quarters." Taeyang pulled up the list of what was stored in the vault. His eyes caught on one entry that made his stomach drop. 6 adult Nyx serpents from Tartarus 3. Apex predators from a world that made Vraktos look gentle by comparison. They were being studied for potential medical applications. Their venom contained compounds that could change surgery forever. They were also ruthless pack hunters with a particular attraction to human pheromones. Nyx serpents are active in sections 13 and 14, Hrulvok reported. They are moving toward the civilian quarters. All available personnel, we need to establish a defensive line at Junction 14 Alpha. Taeyang checked his location. He was in Section 14, between the serpents and the main civilian areas where dozens of researchers were sheltering. His quarters backed against the main habitat ring, with limited escape routes due to the emergency lockdowns caused by the breach. He tried his door. Sealed. Emergency protocols had locked down his entire section, probably to contain any threats. He was trapped, and according to the tracking systems, the serpents were getting closer. The young creatures sensed the danger. Their spikes were fully standing up now, glowing with that pale blue light that signaled high stress. They had positioned themselves between Taeyang and the door. Their body language was clear. They understood something threatening was approaching. Taeyang could hear sounds in the hallway outside now, scraping, hissing, and something that might have been clicking communication between the serpents. The Nyx serpents were intelligent hunters working together in their search patterns. His screen showed security footage from the hallway. 3 of the serpents were approaching his section. Their bodies were long and moved like snakes covered in midnight blue scales that absorbed light. They were each easily 3 meters long, with triangular heads and eyes that glowed a sickly yellow. Their mouths were filled with needle-thin teeth designed to inject venom rather than tear flesh. Guard teams are pinned down in Section 11. Krulvok's voice came through with clear frustration. We cannot reach 14 in time. All civilians in Section 14 remain secured and quiet. Do not draw attention. But it was too late for that. Taeyang watched the screen as the serpents paused outside his door. One of them raised its head, its tongue moving out. It was tasting the air, detecting the chemical signatures of the organisms inside. Human pheromones. Their preferred prey. The serpent struck at the door mechanism. Once, twice, 3 times. The door was designed to withstand normal breaches, but these creatures had evolved to break into defended nests. On the 3rd strike, something in the locking mechanism gave way. The door slid partially open, jammed but no longer sealed. 3 serpent heads pushed through the gap, their yellow eyes fixing immediately on Taeyang. Then Buell, Hanul, and Dari moved. The transformation was instant and absolute. These were no longer the playful young creatures that solved puzzles and sought affection. These were apex predators from a dangerous world, and they had just recognized a threat to their pack. Their spikes snapped fully upright, glowing now with an intense blue-white light. The sound they made was nothing Taeyang had heard before. It was a combination of that dolphin-like complexity with something deeper, more primal. It was a war cry, a territorial challenge, a promise of violence. The 3 young creatures spread into a defensive formation around Taeyang's sleeping area, blocking any path the serpents might take to reach him. They were smaller than the serpents, younger, clearly outmatched by size and experience, but they showed no fear, only absolute determination. The serpents hesitated. Their intelligence was considerable, and they recognized the threat display. More importantly, they recognized fellow apex predators willing to fight to the death. All personnel do not approach Section 14 personal quarters, a new voice said over the communication system. It was Ambassador Krelvax. Visual feeds show a hostile confrontation between Nyx serpents and the Vrakhound specimens. Any intervention will likely trigger a feeding frenzy. Maintain distance and prepare sedative protocols. Through his wall screen, Taeyang could see that cameras throughout the station were now broadcasting this confrontation. Every researcher, every guard, every administrator was watching 3 young Vrakhounds face down 3 adult Nyx serpents to protect a single human. The serpents tried to circle, trying to find an opening. The young creatures matched their movements perfectly, maintaining their protective formation. When one serpent made a fake move toward the left, Hanul intercepted instantly, snapping powerful jaws that came within centimeters of the serpent's head. The serpent retreated, reconsidering. Guard teams, how long until you reach Section 14? Commander Vextel's voice was tense. 5 minutes at minimum, Commander. The breach damaged several hallways. We are finding alternate routes. 5 minutes. A lifetime in a confrontation like this. Taeyang stood behind the young creatures, his back against his sleeping area, completely defenseless. He had no weapons, no way to help them. All he could do was trust that the bond they had formed was strong enough. The serpents made their decision. All 3 struck at the same time, coordinated hunters going for a killing blow. But the young creatures had been waiting for exactly this. They had fought together since birth, their pack coordination refined by survival on one of the galaxy's most dangerous worlds. Bayul took the center serpent head-on, using his larger size to his advantage. His crystal spikes, now razor-sharp, scraped across the serpent's scales as they collided. The changes to Station Theta 7 happened slowly over the following weeks. Taeyang's living quarters were made bigger and changed to fit both human and Vrakhound needs. Environmental controls were adjusted to match the temperature and humidity levels that the young creatures found comfortable. Special feeding stations were installed, and a section of the observation deck was converted into what Taeyang called an enrichment area. It was a space where the young creatures could exercise, explore, and use their considerable intelligence with puzzles and challenges. The young creatures grew fast. Within a month, they had nearly doubled in size. Beul now stood almost as tall as Taeyang's hip, with Hanul slightly bigger and Dari just behind. Their crystal spikes had hardened fully, forming beautiful patterns that caught and bent light. Their movements had become more confident, their coordination perfect as they moved through the station's hallways. What amazed everyone most was the bond that had formed. The young creatures followed Taeyang during his daily routines, not with blind obedience like trained animals, but with choice and loyalty like true companions. When Taeyang worked in the labs, they would rest nearby. Sometimes they would approach to look at his equipment with careful curiosity. When he moved through the station, they walked beside him, not as guards but as pack members. Other researchers began approaching Taeyang with questions. How did he build trust? What methods worked best? Could similar ways work with other species? His answers were always the same. Patience, observation, respect, and the understanding that relationship was a two-way street. The young creatures had chosen to trust him as much as he had chosen to trust them. Choi Mirai, a human cultural anthropologist who had been on Theta 7 for 2 years, became very interested in documenting the developing relationship. She had studied Earth's history extensively, particularly the ancient partnerships between humans and wolves that had eventually led to dogs. What you are doing, she told Taeyang during one of their recorded interviews, it mirrors something uniquely human. We are the only species in Earth's history that consistently formed working relationships with other predators. Wolves became dogs. Wildcats became companions. Even birds of prey were trained to hunt alongside humans. No other species did this. It was uniquely us. Maybe it is not unique to humans specifically, Taeyang suggested. Maybe it is just rare. Maybe the ability for interspecies bonding exists in lots of species, but the right circumstances need to align. Perhaps. But from what I have observed throughout the galaxy, most species view other predators as either threats or resources. The idea of partnership seems foreign to them. Even the Calarians, who are highly social within their own species, do not form bonds across species lines. Their conversation was interrupted by Beul, who had walked over carrying one of the puzzle devices Taeyang had created. The young creature dropped it at Taeyang's feet. Its spikes were slightly raised in what he had learned was a playful gesture. They are remarkable, Mirai said, watching as Taeyang played with Beul, showing the young creature how to unlock a new part in the puzzle. The level of thinking they are displaying, the emotional bonding, it is unprecedented for non-sentient species. They are not so non-sentient, Taeyang said quietly.
Sometimes I wonder if we are using the wrong labels.
They cannot build technology or speak in languages we recognize, but they solve problems, form strategies, show emotional complexity. What is the real difference between sentient and intelligent? It was a question that would become increasingly important because not everyone was impressed with the developments on Station Theta 7. 3 weeks after the rescue of Daehyun, a visitor arrived that would threaten everything Taeyang had built. Ambassador Krelvax of the Syndicated Worlds arrived without warning. His sleek diplomatic ship docked during the station's night cycle. The Syndicate represented 17 different species across 12 systems, and they had strict rules about dangerous organisms and interspecies protocols. Commander Vextal called an emergency briefing. The ambassador is here to inspect our facilities. He has heard about the Vrak Hounds and he is not happy about it. What authority does he have over station operations? Dr. Morales asked. The Syndicate provides 40% of our funding. If he recommends sanctions, the Research Coalition will listen. Vextal's multiple eyes focused on Taeyang. He wants to meet with you specifically, and he wants to observe the young creatures. The meeting took place in the main conference room. Ambassador Krelvax was a Thorsian, a species known for their logical minds and rigid adherence to rules. His body was tall and thin, covered in smooth gray skin that reflected light. His eyes were large and expressive, missing nothing. Dr. Park Taeyang, the ambassador said. His voice carried a mechanical quality through his translation device. I have read the reports about your work with the Vrakhound specimens. I find them concerning. May I ask why, Ambassador? Humans have been part of the galactic community for only 70 years. In that time, you have developed a reputation for being unpredictable, emotionally driven, and prone to forming attachments that cloud judgment. The situation here shows these traits. Taeyang felt anger rising but kept his voice calm. The young creatures have saved a station member's life. They have caused no injuries. They have shown problem-solving abilities that rival many tool-using species. How is studying and working with them a problem? Because you are not studying them, Doctor. You are befriending them. You have given them freedom to roam this station. You spend hours in their company not for research, but for enjoyment. This is not scientific observation. This is dangerous sentiment. Sentiment is understanding, Taeyang replied. Yes, I care about them. That care has allowed me to observe behaviors that purely clinical study would miss. The data we are gathering is revolutionary. Or it is confirmation bias, seeing what you wish to see in creatures that remain fundamentally dangerous. The ambassador leaned forward. I have reviewed incidents throughout galactic history where supposedly controlled predators have turned on their handlers. The pattern is consistent and tragic. Your emotional attachment blinds you to the inevitable outcome. Dr. Morales spoke up. Ambassador, the behavioral data supports Dr. Taeyang's approach. The young creatures show no aggression toward station personnel. In fact, they display what can only be described as protective behaviors. Protective, the ambassador repeated. And when they decide something is a threat, when their protective instincts turn violent, who will be responsible for the casualties? The debate continued for hours. Ambassador Krelvax had come with a predetermined conclusion, and nothing said in the meeting would change his mind. By the end, he had made his position clear. The Syndicate cannot support a research station that harbors uncontrolled apex predators, regardless of their current behavior. I am recommending that the specimens be transferred to a maximum security facility, where they can be studied under proper containment protocols. If the station refuses, we will recommend funding sanctions. Commander Vextal looked genuinely pained. Ambassador, please reconsider. The research value is not worth the risk. You have 48 hours to prepare the specimens for transfer. That is my final recommendation to the Coalition. The meeting ended in tense silence. Taeyang left feeling hollow. He had always known this was a possibility, but facing it was different. He returned to his quarters where the three young creatures were waiting. They sensed his distress immediately. They gathered around him with soft sounds, their spikes flat in concern. I am sorry, he whispered, kneeling down to embrace each of them. I tried. That night, Taeyang worked through his options. He could refuse the transfer, but that would result in his removal and likely death of the young creatures anyway. He could try to appeal to the Coalition directly, but the Syndicate's influence was considerable. He could try to find another facility willing to take them, but anywhere he could think of would treat them as specimens, not individuals. He spent the night making detailed behavioral notes, recording everything he knew about each young creature's personality, preferences, communication patterns. If they had to be separated, at least whoever received them would have the best possible information to ensure their well-being. The young creatures sensed something was wrong. They stayed closer than usual, rarely leaving his immediate presence. Fuel especially seemed anxious, often making the questioning sound that Taeyang had learned meant confusion or concern. It will be okay, he told them, though he was not sure he believed it himself. Wherever you go, you will be safe. I will make sure of it. But as he looked at their intelligent eyes, at the trust they showed him, he wondered if safety was enough. They had formed a pack, and he was part of it. Breaking that would hurt them in ways that had nothing to do with physical safety. 48 hours. That was all the time they had left together. Over the next week, something amazing happened on Station Theta 7. Taeyang continued his patient work with the young Vrakhounds, and slowly, contact became relationship. He spent hours each day in their territory, never pushing, never demanding, always offering and waiting. He began to tell the three young creatures apart. The first one he had made contact with was the boldest. It had special markings on its face that looked like a star pattern. He privately called it Buell, though he kept the name to himself. The Mawai's second was slightly bigger, with spikes that caught the light like a clear sky. Hanul, he thought. The third was the most careful, often watching from far away. Its movements were graceful like moonlight. Dari. The station remained divided about the situation. Commander Vextal had given Taeyang permission to continue his work, but under strict observation. Dr. Morales was fascinated by the behavior information they were gathering. She saw research possibilities that could change xenobiology, but others were less convinced. It is only a matter of time before something goes wrong, one of the senior researchers said during a meal break. Humans have this romantic view of predators. Earth's history is full of stories about people who thought they had special connections with dangerous animals, right up until those animals reminded them what they really were. Taeyang understood the concern. He was not foolish about the risks. Every interaction with the young creatures required complete focus and awareness. But what most people did not understand was that relationship with predators was not about control. It was about mutual respect and clear communication. One morning, Taeyang discovered something that changed everything. He was reviewing security video of the young creatures when he noticed their behavior around the broken boxes they had escaped from. The boxes were still in the cargo room being studied by engineers trying to understand what had gone wrong. Taeyang watched as the young creatures during one of their nighttime explorations had approached the boxes. But instead of random destruction or panic, they had worked together to control the locking mechanisms. It was not luck or instinct. It was problem-solving, tool use, planning. He immediately brought the video to Dr. Morales, who watched it 3 times with growing amazement. "This level of intelligence," she said quietly, her mandibles barely moving, "this is approaching sentient-level thinking. Not quite there, but close. Very close." "Which makes them even more valuable," Taeyang said. "And even more dangerous," Hrulvok added, having joined them in the lab. "Smart predators are the worst kind. They plan, they adapt, they remember. They also form bonds," Taeyang replied. "Intelligence is not just about being dangerous, it is about being capable of complex relationships." The argument was interrupted by an emergency alert. A coolant leak in Section 7. The chemical was toxic to most of the station species. Emergency doors had sealed automatically and there was a problem. Kim Dae-hyun was trapped inside. Taeyang rushed to the command center, where Vextal was organizing the response. The situation was critical. The toxic coolant was spreading quickly, and while Dae-hyun's emergency suit could protect him temporarily, it would not last long. The air system in that section could blow out the chemicals, but debris from the leak had blocked the manual control valve. "Can we reach him through the main hallways?" Taeyang asked. "The emergency doors are sealed," Hrulvok explained, pulling up a map. "It will take 40 minutes to override them safely." "He does not have 40 minutes. What about the air vents?" "Too small for any of us. And even if we could fit, the debris blocking the valve is sharp enough to tear standard suits. We would need special equipment that we do not have available." Taeyang stared at the map, his mind racing. The air vents. Too small for adults. But not too small for something smaller. Something that had been using those vents as pathways throughout the station. The young creatures. He said suddenly. They used those vents, they could reach the valve. The command center fell silent. Vextal turned all 6 eyes toward him. "You cannot be serious." "I know it sounds crazy, but think about it. They are small enough to move through the vents. Their crystal spikes are strong enough to cut through debris, and they are smart enough to understand simple directions. You are suggesting we trust the life of a crew member to creatures that, a week ago, we were trying to kill?" Hrulvok's voice showed disbelief. "I am suggesting we trust them the way they have started to trust me, but we need to hurry." Dr. Morales looked at the map, then at the real-time feed showing Dae-hyun's situation getting worse. "It is insane," she said, "but it might be our only option." Vextal made the decision in seconds. "Do it. But Taeyang, if this goes wrong." "I know, Commander." Taeyang moved quickly to Section 6, the closest safe area to where the young creatures were currently located. He had brought equipment, a helmet, camera, and a small device that could show simple holographic images. He also brought food because trust should always be rewarded. "Bayul," he called softly, using the name for the first time out loud. "Hanul, Dari, I need your help." They appeared within minutes, all 3 of them. They had learned that Taeyang's presence meant safety, food, and gentle interaction. They approached without fear now, though still with caution. Taeyang showed them the holographic picture, a simple image of the air vent leading to the control valve. He had no idea if they would understand, if this would work, or if he was asking the impossible. But he tried anyway, using hand movements, tone, and the trust they had built. "Please," he said. And maybe it was the desperation in his voice, or maybe they understood more than anyone gave them credit for. But all three young creatures suddenly focused on the air vent entrance. Buell went first, followed by Hanul and Dari. Taeyang attached the helmet camera to Buell's back using a quick-release harness he had prepared. Through the command center's displays, everyone on the station could now see what the young creature saw. The journey through the vents was tense. Taeyang called out directions, not sure if they understood his words but hoping his tone carried meaning. The young creatures moved with surprising precision, working together when they met the debris. Their spikes and claws made short work of obstacles that would have stopped any rescue team. Finally, they reached the control valve. Taeyang could see Daehyun through a grate, collapsed against a wall. His suit's displays showed dangerous chemical exposure levels. "The red handle," Taeyang said, highlighting it on the holographic display he could project remotely to the camera. "Pull down on the red handle." Buell studied it for a moment. Then, in a display of intelligence that silenced every doubter watching, the young creature used its paws to grip the handle and pull. The mechanism was stiff, designed for maintenance workers with tools. But Buell was joined by Hanul, and together, they had enough strength. The handle moved. The air system roared to life. Fresh air began flooding the section, pushing out the toxic coolant. Medical teams rushed in the moment the emergency doors could be safely opened. Daehyun was unconscious but alive. His suit had protected him just long enough. He would recover fully. The three young creatures came out of the air vent in the command center. Taeyang had guided them there. They were tired, their spikes dulled with dust and their paws scraped from the rough work. But they went to Taeyang immediately, seeking the reassurance and reward they had learned to expect. Commander Vextal watched as Taeyang knelt down and carefully removed the camera harness. He spoke softly to each young creature, offering food and water. His hands were gentle on their unusual bodies. "I need to file a report with the Galactic Research Coalition," Vextal said finally. "This changes everything." Dr. Morales nodded slowly. "Agreed. We are not just observing animal behavior anymore. We are witnessing the formation of an interspecies partnership. This could change how we approach non-sentient intelligent species." Rulvok said nothing, but there was new respect in his eyes as he watched the human and the three creatures from a dangerous world, together in a way that should not have been possible. That night, the station council met in emergency session. The debate lasted hours, but the conclusion was clear. The young Vrak hounds would not be killed or removed. Instead, they would remain under Taeyang's care as part of a new research program studying beneficial interspecies relationships. For the first time since their arrival, the young creatures slept in a prepared habitat rather than hiding in air vents. And Taeyang, exhausted but happy, watched them sleep and wondered what other impossible things might become possible with patience, trust, and understanding. The first attempt to catch the creatures happened 6 hours after they escaped. Captain Rulvok gathered his best soldiers. They had special nets made of energy and stun weapons that were strong enough for animals twice as big as the young Vrakhounds. Taeyang watched from a safe distance as they cornered one of the creatures where two hallways met. The young creature had moved away from the others, or maybe it was looking around. Either way, the security team moved with practiced skill. They blocked all the exits before showing themselves. The creature reacted immediately and dramatically. Its crystal spikes stood straight up and glowed with pale blue light. It made a sound that was part growl and part something else. The sound reminded Taeyang of dolphins or whales. It was complex and seemed to carry meaning. "Now," Rulvok commanded. The energy nets shot out with a crackling sound. They should have worked. The creature was small, young, and trapped. But it moved incredibly fast. Its six-legged body twisted in ways that should not have been possible. The nets caught only empty air as the Vrakhound ran straight up the wall. Its claws and paws stuck to the wall somehow, letting it climb like it was walking on flat ground. One guard was so surprised by the creature appearing above him that he stumbled backward into another team member. Both fell down in a mess of armor and weapons. The Wrackhound used that moment to jump over their heads and disappear back into the air vent. Its crystal spike scraped against the metal with a sound like breaking glass. Rulvok cursed in his own language. The team got back together, but Taiyang could see that some of them were shaking. They were trained warriors, but this was different from anything they had faced before. It did not attack, Taiyang said quietly to Daehyun, who had come to watch with him. What do you mean? It almost took that guard's head off when it jumped. No, it jumped over him. It could have attacked if it wanted to. Instead, it escaped. That is not predator behavior. That is prey behavior. Daehyun looked at him with doubt. You are saying those things think they are prey? Have you seen their teeth? Being a predator does not mean you never feel fear. They are young, remember? Probably just taken away from their parents or pack. Everything here is strange and threatening to them. We are not trying to catch predators. We are trying to catch scared children. The second attempt went even worse. The security team tried to use containment fields to trap all three creatures at the same time in a bigger section of the station. The Wrackhounds showed something that shocked everyone watching. They could solve problems together. While two of them distracted the guards with fake attacks and aggressive shows, the third found a control panel. Through what looked like trial and error, it managed to trigger an emergency door release. The field collapsed and once again the creatures vanished into the station's air system. Commander Vextal called an emergency meeting. His usual calm was gone, replaced by frustration and growing worry. They are too smart for normal containment methods, Dr. Morales admitted. Her mandibles clicked and what Taeyang had learned was her species' way of showing anxiety. The methods were designed for aggressive but simple creatures. These young ones are showing problem-solving abilities equal to several intelligent species. Then we increase the threat level, Rulvok suggested. Switch from capture to killing. No. The word burst from Taiyang before he could stop himself. All eyes turned to him. He swallowed hard but continued. Give me a chance. Let me try a different way. The human wants to talk to them, I suppose. Rulvok's tone was mocking. Perhaps offer them a peace agreement? Not talk, listen. Taeyang pulled up his datapad showing the video from the failed capture attempts. Look at their behavior. Every time we corner them, they run. Every time we show aggression, they respond with fear displays, not attack patterns. These are not monsters. They are traumatized children in a nightmare. You are seeing human emotions in alien creatures, Dr. Morales said, though her tone was gentler than Rulvok's. Projecting feelings that may not exist. Maybe. But I have spent my whole career working with Earth predators. Wolves, bears, big cats. I have seen this exact behavior before. Fear, aggression, defensive displays, running away instead of fighting. Let me try approaching them the way I would approach any scared animal. Out of the question, Vextal said firmly. I will not let a civilian approach creatures that have caused 2 injury incidents. The injuries happened during panicked retreats, not attacks, Taeyang argued back. The creatures themselves have not hurt anyone. The argument went in circles for another hour. Finally, Vextal made his decision. You may observe them, Taeyang. You may study their patterns. But you will not approach them. That is final. Taeyang nodded, accepting the limit. But that night, after the official teams had reduced their active search to just watching, he made his way to Section 7C. Sensors showed one of the young creatures had taken up temporary residence there. Daehyun met him there, carrying a bag of equipment. I cannot believe I am helping you disobey direct orders. You are not helping me do anything, Taeyang said. You are just here to monitor environmental controls. If you happen to disable the proximity alarms in this section, that is just a coincidence. The younger man smiled despite his nervousness. Right, coincidence. Taeyang entered the hallway slowly. He had brought food. The protein maker had been programmed to create something similar to what the creatures would have eaten on their homeworld. He also brought a small cushion and a bottle of water. He sat down in the middle of the hallway about 20 meters from where the sensors said the creature was hiding behind an access panel. Then he waited. Nothing happened for 2 hours. Taeyang sat quietly, occasionally making soft sounds, never looking directly at where he knew the creature was hiding. He had learned long ago that direct eye contact was a threat to most predators. Instead, he looked at the walls, the ceiling, anywhere but at his observer, because he knew the creature was observing him. He could feel it, that weight of attention that any experienced animal handler learned to recognize. In the third hour, he heard movement. Soft clicking sounds as claws touched metal. He kept his gaze away but used his side vision to catch glimpses. The young creature had come partially out of hiding. Its head was visible as it watched him. It was smaller than he had thought. Probably not much bigger than a large dog when you considered its 6 legs. Its crystal spikes were laid flat against its body, no longer aggressive. Its eyes, that faint glow he had noticed before, held clear intelligence. Taeyang slowly reached for the food he had brought. Without looking at the creature, he placed it on the floor and slid it gently in the creature's direction. Then he returned to his previous position, hands resting loosely in his lap. More time passed. Then, with movements almost as careful as Taeyang's own, the young creature crept forward. It sniffed the food, its nose moving. Taeyang kept himself absolutely still, barely breathing. The creature ate. Not in the hungry manner of a wild animal, but carefully, slowly, all while keeping its attention divided between the food and the strange human sitting so calmly nearby. When it finished, it did something unexpected. It moved closer. Not threatening, not aggressive, just curious. It came to within 5 meters, close enough that Taeyang could see the details of its crystal spikes, the patterns in its fur, the way its 6 legs moved in perfect coordination. Then it made a sound. Not the threatening growl from before, but something softer, almost like a question. Taeyang, moving very slowly, extended his hand. Palm down, non-threatening, just as he would with any earth animal. The creature watched the hand with intense focus. For a moment, Taeyang thought it might run. But then carefully it stretched its neck forward, its nose touched his fingertips, cold, slightly wet, and for just a second there was contact. Then the creature pulled back, turned, and disappeared back into the air vent. Taeyang sat there for another hour, his hand still extended, a smile on his face. Daehyun found him there later, and through the security camera, so did several others. The impossible had happened. A human had made peaceful contact with one of the most dangerous young predators in the known galaxy. In the monitoring station, Commander Vextal watched the recording again. "Perhaps," he said quietly to Dr. Morales, "we have been doing this wrong." "Perhaps," she agreed. "Humans know something about predators that the rest of us have yet to learn." The red lights flashed across Station Theta 7 early in the morning. Park Taeyang put down his coffee and walked toward the main viewing area. Many other workers were already standing there, looking out the big window into space. A damaged ship was coming closer to the station. Taeyang could see burn marks on its side. He knew what ship this was. It came from Vraktos Prime, a dying planet that had been closed off 3 months ago. Commander Vextal stood in the middle of the room. He had 6 arms and looked very worried. Next to him was Dr. Morales. She looked like a big insect made of crystal. Her body pieces clicked together nervously. "What is happening?" Taeyang asked as he got closer. Vextal turned 2 of his eyes to look at Taeyang. His other eyes kept watching the ship. "They are bringing animals from Vraktos. Young predators. The ship says some of the holding boxes are breaking." Taeyang felt worried. He had read about Vraktos Prime before. It was one of the most dangerous planets anyone had ever found. The animals that lived there were very tough and very deadly. "How many animals?" Dr. Morales asked. Her voice sounded like small bells ringing. 12 boxes, all young ones. But 3 boxes are failing. They kept them closed, but the life support in those boxes is almost gone. The damaged ship connected to the station with a loud metal sound. Taeyang watched as the connection process started. The station's head guard, Captain Hrulvok, had already gathered his soldiers. They wore thick armor and carried weapons near the cargo room door. Taeyang went down to the cargo level. His worker card led him into the watching area above the cargo room. Other scientists were already there. Everyone wanted to see creatures from one of the most famous, dangerous planets. The cargo room doors opened with a hissing sound. Workers in protective suits started moving the animal boxes onto floating platforms. Each box was about 2 meters long and made of strong, clear material. Inside the working boxes, Taeyang could see dark shapes moving around. Then he saw the 3 broken boxes. Red warning lights blinked on them. Through the foggy clear walls, he could see smaller shapes moving very fast inside. "Those are the damaged ones," someone said next to him. It was Kim Daehyun, a young engineer who worked on the station. His face was pressed against the window. The temperature control stopped working. The creatures inside are scared. A worker in a protective suit walked slowly toward the first broken box. He looked at a small computer in his hand. The creature inside threw itself against the clear wall. For just a second, Taeyang got a good look at it. It was about as big as a large dog from Earth, but it was very different. The creature had 6 legs with curved claws. Its body had dark fur, but sharp crystal-like spikes grew from its back. These spikes caught the light. Its head was wide with eyes that glowed in the dark box. "Beautiful," Taeyang said quietly. Daehyun looked at him like he was crazy. "Beautiful? That thing looks like it could cut through metal. That is what makes it beautiful. It is perfect for staying alive." Below them, the worker tried to attach a support device to the failing box. Then something terrible happened. The box's lock broke from all the hitting from inside. The door did not just open, it exploded outward. The worker flew backward and hit the floor hard. The young Vrackhound jumped out of the box like a black shooting star. It hit the ground running. Its 6 legs moved so fast they were hard to see. Alarms started making loud noises right away. The other 2 broken boxes started breaking too because of stress. Within seconds, all 3 young creatures were loose in the cargo room. Guard teams ran forward with weapons ready. But the creatures were already gone. They disappeared into the air vents with movements that showed they were smart and worked together. Workers rushed to make the other boxes safe while Captain Rulvok's voice boomed through the room. "Lock down. Close all sections next to cargo. No one moves without permission." Taeyang watched the chaos with both worry and interest. The creatures had not attacked anyone. They just ran away, looking for safety in a strange place. It was exactly what any smart animal would do when it was scared and lost. The watching area was cleared quickly. Taeyang ended up in the main control room again. Commander Vextal was organizing the response. The station's computer screens now showed a map with 3 moving red dots. They were tracking the creatures through the air system. "They must be killed immediately," Vextal was saying to a group of senior workers. "We cannot risk the safety of everyone on this station." "No," Dr. Morales said loudly. Her voice was sharp like breaking glass. "These animals cannot be replaced. Fractos Prime is dying. These might be the last ones left. We must catch them alive." "They already hurt 2 workers on their homeworld," Hrulvok said in a deep voice. "These are not pets. They are weapons with teeth." Taeyang stepped forward. His heart beat fast. "I can help find them." Everyone stopped talking. All eyes turned to him. "You study animals, not hunt them," Vextal said. He did not sound mean, exactly. "I study animal behavior. These creatures are not hunting right now. They are scared and confused. If we treat this like a war, people will get hurt. But if we treat them like the smart, scared animals they are, we might have a chance." Hrulvok's huge armored body shifted. His armor plates scraped together. "And if you are wrong, human? If they decide you look like food?" Taeyang looked straight at the security chief. "Then I will be wrong. But right now everyone is acting from fear. Someone needs to act from understanding." Commander Vextal was quiet for a long time. All his eyes studied Taeyang carefully. Finally he moved one arm. "You may watch the tracking work. But you will not go near the creatures without permission. Is that clear?" "Very clear, Commander." As the meeting ended and teams started organizing, Taeyang pulled up everything he could find about Vrackhound behavior. The information was limited. Most of it came from robot cameras watching from far away, but what he read told him one important thing. These creatures were pack animals with complex social groups. They were not mindless killers. They were survivors. Right now they were 3 young survivors alone in a scary metal world. Somewhere in the air vents above, 3 pairs of glowing eyes watched the strange aliens moving through the hallways below. They were trying to understand this new reality they had been thrown into. They were scared, lost, and alone. But they were together, and that was something.